What if I told you there's no such thing as high cheekbones? Sounds ridiculous, right? After all, we've heard the phrase. Artists say it, photographers say it, fashion magazines say it. We look at a face and we say, he has high cheekbones. She has high cheekbones. But the more I studied faces, the more I started to wonder what the term high cheekbones even means. And should we even be using it to describe the faces we're actually seeing? Especially if we want to draw faces. As artists, we need terms that are clear, useful, and observable. So let's investigate this idea of high cheekbones and low cheekbones and see if they even exist. So let's ask a simple question. When people say someone has high cheekbones, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about the height of the cheekbone or the width of the face? The projection of the zygomatic arch or the shadow underneath the cheekbone? How about the shape of the jaw, or something else entirely? Because the more faces I looked at, the less obvious the answer became. So take a look at these faces. Most people would probably describe all of them as having high cheekbones. But do they really share the same facial structure? I'm not so sure. Before we go any further, I'd like to give a quick thank you to artist and sculptor Diego Verger for generously allowing me to use some of his skull reference images in this video. Diego has created an extensive collection of human skull studies, including detailed 3D views from multiple angles. They're an excellent source for artists interested in anatomy, portrait drawing, sculpture, and character design. I'll put a link to his website in the description below. Definitely take a look if you'd like to explore his work further. It's no wonder people are confused about cheekbones. I looked up cheekbones on Google, and this is the first entry that came up. It says specifically, high versus low cheekbones. Your cheekbone placement is primarily determined by genetics and ethnicity. High cheekbones. Your cheekbones are located closer to your eyes, creating a sharp structural profile. Low cheekbones. Your cheekbones sit lower down, closer to the bottom of your nose, often giving the face a softer appearance. Well, let's take a look to see if the cheekbones do change location from one person to another. Or like our noses, are they always in the same place? I have some images of skulls here, thanks again Diego, from 3 different angles to help us find the location of human cheekbones on the face. So here's the front view. So cheekbones start just below the eyes and end at the bottom of the nose. I have looked at a lot of faces and quite a few human skulls, not just 3D digital images. And while there may be a slight bit of variation, maybe a few millimeters, it seems to me that cheekbones do not move up or down much at all. And as you can see in these images I've created, if you do move the cheekbones up or down, well, the face just starts to look distorted and unnatural. So hopefully these high and low cheekbone images prove the point that cheekbones don't move up or down on the human skull. Now let's look at the cheekbones from a side profile view. This is where the whole idea of high and low cheekbones really starts to fall apart. So here's the normal side view of the skull. The cheekbones sit just below the eye socket and runs down towards the bottom of the nose. Now if I push or project the cheekbone slightly forward, that still feels possible maybe, but not likely. And then once I start to move it too far forward, it becomes unrealistic. Or you might want to say it's distorted, okay, or unnatural. Now, if I try to move the cheekbone higher, now it starts crashing into the eye socket area, and that is not just a different face type, that's an anatomy problem, where a person wouldn't be able to see properly. And if I move it even higher while also pushing it outward, it becomes even more obvious. The structure stops looking human or stops looking functional. Then if I try the opposite and move the cheekbone too low, now it starts dropping toward the jaw into the teeth area. Again, that is not really low cheekbones, that's a distorted skull. So from the side view, the point is pretty clear. Cheekbones can vary in projection slightly, but they do not move wildly up and down the face. If you force them higher or lower, you don't get a normal human face, you get something that's anatomically broken. Now, let's look at a 3/4 or angled view. When we rotate the skull into a 3/4 view, notice how the zygomatic bone, the cheekbones, suddenly becomes much more visible on the far side of the face. And the closer cheekbone projects toward the viewer, creating a stronger shadow underneath, a stronger highlight above, and a much stronger visual impression. This is one reason why people often think they're looking at high cheekbones, just because from the 3/4 angle you can notice them a little more. But what they're usually seeing is projection, not height. the cheekbone really doesn't change location on the face. The cheekbone is still sitting in roughly the same anatomical position, just below the eye socket and down to the bottom of the nose. Now watch what happens when I exaggerate the 3/4 view projection. If you're new here, welcome to Art with Jim. If you'd like to see more drawing tutorials, art studies, and creative projects, consider subscribing, and don't forget to smash that like button. If you push it too far, we once again have deformed or unrealistic anatomy. The important thing to understand is that prominent cheekbones and high cheekbones are not necessarily the same thing. A cheekbone can appear very prominent simply because it projects outward, or the cheekbone is wider than the rest of the face, which is one reason the term high cheekbones creates so much confusion. People are often describing projection when they think they're describing height. High cheekbones is probably a very misleading term. The side view examples show that cheekbones can't wander very far up and down without breaking anatomy, and your 3/4 examples show that what people are actually noticing is often cheekbone projection and visibility. Still, we do perceive some people as having high cheekbones. So why is that? Well, I think the answer may have less to do with where the cheekbones are located and more to do with their relationships to the rest of the face. Because when I started comparing faces, I noticed something really interesting. People who are described as having high cheekbones have their cheekbones in the same location as other people, but the relationship between the width of the cheekbones and the width of the jaw may vary a lot. Also, muscle and fat thickness can play a large role in how we perceive a person's cheeks. And to a degree, so can makeup. So let's take a look at these sketches that I drew a while ago and the Photoshop versions to show you more details about high and low cheekbones. This first sketch is a normal face with normal width cheekbones and a similar width jaw. Nothing really stands out. This second version has a much narrower jaw. How do you perceive the cheekbones now? Do they look higher? This third version has wider cheeks, but the cheekbones are pretty much the same width as the jaw. Now I moved the cheekbones higher, but as you can see the face is distorted, and I doubt if you've ever seen anyone with cheekbones that stick out right beside the eyes. And here I dropped the cheekbones very low, and the cheekbones definitely look distorted and abnormal. Now this is an interesting case, and you may have seen someone who looks like this. This person has very wide cheekbones and a narrow jaw. And I think it is this combination of wide cheekbones and a narrow jaw that causes people to say, this person has high cheekbones. But in reality, the cheekbones aren't any higher or lower than our original normal face. Now let's look at one last version, the wide jaw with even wider cheekbones. This combination of features may also make people say, oh, he has high cheekbones. But again, it is the cheekbone width and the relationship to the jaw that tricks us. So again, I would say higher or lower cheekbones are the wrong words to describe wide or prominent cheekbones. Now let's look at two final examples of real people, Giselle Bundchen and Liv Tyler. Both beautiful but very different faces. Here's Giselle, wider cheekbones, narrower jaw. Here is the width of her cheekbones, her jaw outline, her cheekbone outline, then filled in cheekbone masks. And finally, I try to show where she applied some makeup, and you can be sure she will never ask me for help. Next, I photoshopped in a wider jaw on her. Immediately, her cheekbones don't look prominent or high, but the cheekbones are the same width. I only widened the jaw. The mask hasn't changed or the makeup placement. So it seems that what people call high cheekbones is often really the visual relationship between cheekbone width and jaw width. Okay, Liv Tyler. Her cheekbones don't stick out much at all, and her jaw seems to be a similar width to her cheekbones. Now, if we make her jaw very narrow, and I exaggerated it on purpose, even though her cheekbones are the same width as before, she appears to have high cheekbones, though they are at the exact same height as before the jaw distortion. So what did we discover? After looking at skulls, studying photographs, creating sketches, and even manipulating real faces in Photoshop, I don't think that the phrase high cheekbones is very accurate. What most people call high cheekbones often seems to be a combination of wider cheekbones and or a narrower jaw. facial fat distribution and muscle thickness, even lighting, shadows, and makeup. In all cases, the cheekbones themselves haven't actually moved higher at all. What we're really seeing is prominence, not height. And that raises an interesting question. If cheekbone height isn't creating facial identity, then what exactly does? What makes a person look like themselves? What are those characteristic traits? If this investigation changed the way you think about faces, hit the like button so YouTube knows to show this video to other artists like you. And if you're interested in anatomy, proportions, stylization, and the hidden structures behind great drawings, consider subscribing to the channel. That's all for now.